Coming up next on In the Box Seat podcast.
I'm honoured to train for the boys like that. I mean, they're the biggest in the game, and it'll be on my honour to train a winner for them, to win the biggest race in South Africa. I think, or I'd say the biggest, one of the biggest. It's the biggest in the pinnacle that it eludes so many people. You know, I mean, so many people try to win the July and they just cannot.
Those behind the scenes at this time of the year, July fever time of the year, may say it's pressurized, everyone's running from gun to tape, it's high anxiety, etc. But we wouldn't trade it for anything really, because that's what we all do in this game. It's time for the Hollywoodbets Durban July. This is the podcast, the official podcast, the week before the big day, the Hollywoodbets Durban July, and we're going to have fun. We've got a very special guest in studio. His name is Glen Kotzen, no stranger to the winner's box. And not only for the Hollywoodbets Durban July, for grade ones and around the country. Glen, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for inviting me.
Lovely. We also have our very good friend, Andrew Harris, with us today. Do you know that we might have wins or something later on, because the fact that you made it to the gallops at 5:30 this morning, you got your eye, nearly fainted.
Yeah, I know, and I put Alamites on too.
So, nice to have you with us. Busy day. Gallops, podcast, all that goes with it. But thanks for coming down, and lovely to have you with us again.
Good one.
Now, let's go back, Glen, to 2009. I'm just going to say 2009, then Vodacom Durban July, and now Hollywoodbets Durban July. Big city life. Let's talk about the horse, talk about the owners, talk about the leader. Just talk about it, because we could sit here for 5 hours and talk about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, as it's been well said before, that we bred him at Woodhill, and when the foal was born, my son said, "Geez, this is the best foal we've bred so far. Could I name him?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And when he came up with the name Big City Life, I said, "Geez, I mean, only he could pull that one." I didn't even realize it was a top song at the time. He was an amazing colt from day one. He always just looked special, and he used to run in the front paddock at Woodhill with the Springbok. I said, "Can you imagine pinging down the straight at Greyville in the July one day?" Yeah, you got to think big. You've always got to think big. I'll never forget. I trained a horse for Tony Millard. He had bred it and he sent it to me to train. And he said, "How's the colt doing?" I said, "Oh, he's coming on nicely." "Well, you better hurry up. The Guineas is only 3 months away." I said, "The Guineas?" I said, "We haven't even got going with him." He says, "You got to think big to get big." Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it was a very special occasion. I just think that to win these big races, everything has to align. Sure. It's just, you can't have one hiccup in their prep, otherwise it just doesn't go down. So at the moment we're in a very good space with this year's prep. They're going back to Big City Life. We'd done exactly what we've done with this horse. Kept him out of the limelight, kept him low. It's a handicap. The July's a handicap. Make sure we qualify with a bottom weight. Secure top jockey, hopefully pull a draw, which I was under pressure for. And everything seems to be lining up. His gallop was superb this year. And when Greg Cheen rode Big City Life, it was crazy. Our draws it was something to do with the draws. He won the Derby in Cape Town, drawn 10. He won the Guineas here, drawn 10. He won the Daily News, drawn 10. Sure. So I said, what's the chances of us pulling 10? We'll never be able to do that. The owner pulled out 10. So the omen was there. So it was just crazy. So, and of course I got flack from the Bureau. They all said, "You see, you always say we get bad draws. You go and pull, you pull 10. So it was crazy. It was amazing experience to have bred him, to co-owned him, and with a wonderful partnership. It was just unbelievable. And it's the funny story is that I wanted to build a house overlooking the lake at Woodhill, and the wife said, "I'll put my cash in if you can get the driveway done." The quote was 100,000 rand. So I phoned up a mate of mine and said, "Look, I've got a colt that didn't fetch money at the sales. I'm putting him on the ready to run. Will you come and have a look at him?" So he came and had a look at the colt, and he said, "Look, I like what I see." He watched it work. So I said, "Look, I need 100,000 rand to put this driveway in. That's my reserve." I said, I didn't get a bid for him at the first sale, but he was quite slap-sided, narrow, tall.
He was by Casey Tibbs.
Yeah, by Casey Tibbs, but he always looked like a racehorse, but you had to see through that. He was just a big baby. And anyway, came the sales, he galloped exceptionally well, and the next thing I saw Mike Bass come back and look at him again. I saw Dean Kinnemeyer come back. So I went up and said, look, I don't want to be greedy. Can we make it 120? Can at least put 20 in the pocket, give the 100 to the construction company. We've got a deal here. He said, only a pleasure. I like what I saw. So the bidding went, and it went 100, 120. Next thing, 170,000 sold. I said, "Jeez, I'm in the money here."
You're out of it.
First horse I've sold as a breeder. So I went up to who bought it? And it actually was him. So I went up to Tony, and I said to him, Tony Warren, the late Tony Warren. I said, Tony, I said, "Geez, you bought the colt." He said, "Yes." I said, "Who did you buy it for?" He said, "A new guy in racing." I said, "Please tell him I'd love to train the colt." So he said, "Oh, well, let's phone him." So he phoned up Raymond Deek and said, "Oh, only a pleasure. If he prepared him, you can trade him." And that's how the story starts. It's a lot of luck. All good horses have got a good story to them, I always believe. And from there, he went on to, first time out, we got beat by a superstar, and we couldn't believe it. I can't think of the horse. I think it wasn't Cormecty doing it, but it was another top horse. He ended up being a Group 1. And second time out, he won, and then we took him to the RA race, which I always use as if you've got a 3-year-old that is not as forward as some of the other Cape horses, that's a nice race to go and try and win, so that at least your rating goes up a bit higher, because there's some highly rated 3-year-olds there. And that was our line, and of course you had to bump a great horse in that my cousin trained, Mitch Visser, who went on to run second in the World Cup for De Kock. Liz's Desire, yeah. I mean, we were like 7 lengths in front of the field. It was crazy. So we knew we had a decent horse. And then, he fluffed his lines in the Guineas. It was his only time that he had a respiratory infection. And then the rest, he just won everything going through. But we kept him away from the older horses. So it's almost the same as Justin Snaith, except he's got the rating because he ran against the older horses. Because then he won the Met. So you've got a choice. You either win the Met or you win the July. You can't win both, because he's got the problem of carrying the weight now.
Sure.
So V. Moodley at the time was just finished being a handicapper, and I phoned him up and I said, "Listen, what do you think?" He said, "Do not run against the old horses. Your rating's low. You've got him in the Group 2, which is a Selangor, and you've got him in the old horse, I think the Greenpoint Stakes." He said, "You're going to think I'm mad. Run him in the Greenpoint Stakes against Pocket Power. You're going to come in with bottom weight. That'll give you a line going forward to the July, and you'll get your rating up to be the best 3-year-old in the country if you think he's that good." Sure. So that's all we did. So once you're the best 3-year-old in the country, everybody's under pressure, because whenever you run them in these 3-year-old weight for age races going forward, they've got to come up to you. Sure. So it's exactly what Justin's done with his horse. We gave the Daily News a miss, because we said, how can we run them in the Daily News? We're going to get a rating. We're going to be rated out of the July on handicapping. So we came in with bottom weight, 51, and we had Greg Cheney who was riding like an absolute master, and just things all fell into place. I mean, he was drawn 10. I remember a bunch of lads were asking me, "Were you nervous? Are you nervous?" And I said, "No, I'm not nervous. Pocket Power's in the race." "Are you joking?" But if you'd worked it out, Pocket Power, when we were a young 3-year-old, I think we carried 52, he carried 60. Now he's a much more mature horse. We were carrying 51.5, and Pocket Power's carrying 60, 5 months down the line. We had to have made the weight for age improvement. We had to be the horse to beat. And he was backed into second favourite, and it was exciting, because within 3 strides, you're sitting on the paint from draw 10. They went through the field, Pocket Power, stone last, and said, "We've got him." And the rest is history. Yeah, he won a super race.
So what's nice is what Glen's going on about is how you plan ahead for a race like the July.
Yeah,
so you pick your races.
Yeah, you've got it. Absolutely.
Pick the opposition, and you try and get in as best you can.
It's so difficult, because it is a handicap. If you want to expose your horse, and then you've got to take a 3-year-old running against the old horses, you're going to get a hiding, and you're going to carry top weight. So I think that we got an outstanding chance, because in going now forward to this race now, we did the same thing. Took him to the RA race. We won that by 6 lengths. Who did we beat? We beat the horse that's unbeaten in PE, that's running in the July. Alan Greefsels.
Yep.
He's come out and won by 5, by 6, by 5. He's won everything. He's probably the best 3-year-old in the decade to come out of PE. So it's very exciting. If you look at that form line, And then, we had a virus in the yard, and then he was shin sore. And after, because he won on the poly, he was a bit shin sore. So we were swerving with him. So we said to the owners, look, we're going to put him away. Our aim is July. Now we've got to plan forward. So we put him away, and then we're supposed to run him when the jockeys all striked. So we came into the Guineas here really underdone. We got beaten 3.5 lengths, or 3 and a bit lengths from the current favourite. Obviously, he wasn't wound up, but we were far from wound up. Then we galloped him again. We galloped him here with the same horse that we galloped him today. And then he got beat head-to-head, carrying 59, giving weight to all the old horses. And the average mirror rating was about 109 in the race. So we knew that was a great prep. But we were also a little bit nervous because our rating was slightly low whether or not we're going to make the final lineup, because it is an invitation at the end of the day. But thank God he's in. And I think now, with Justin giving us 4 kilos, when the pundits start working it out, 4 kilos over 2.2 is many millions. Is he 16 lengths better than me? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So
well, I was just listening to Kevin Shea on the panel discussion. He gave you 100%.
Well, I'll tell you what, I couldn't ask for a better galloper. His times are phenomenal. We did a little podcast with Simongo after the race, and you couldn't wipe that smile off his face. And he gave the thumbs up by going, whoop, whoop. So, yeah, it was great. He just said, tell the boys to bring their best suits. We're ready.
The horse talking about, Alan Creef, is, of course, my best shot. You touched on the owners of Big City Life. Having a look at, firstly, the name of this horse is a magnificent name, on my honor. I mean, you can't get stronger and more powerful and more magnificent than that. But it's Macum Gujada, I think it is, Rob McNabb, of course, Rakesh Sugalam, and it was Jaron Lawrence Verdes. What a combination, what a bunch of people that put so much into the game.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at that bunch of owners, I mean, it's just crazy. I'm honored to train for the boys like that. I mean, they're the biggest in the game, and it'll be on my honor to train a winner for them, to win the biggest race in South Africa. I think, or I'd say the biggest, one of the biggest. It's the biggest in the pinnacle of that. It eludes so many people. I mean, so many people try to win the July, and they just cannot. Everything has to run smoothly.
The 2009 was Big City Life. I say early in the sense that you got that trophy on your mantelpiece early, so it some trainers only win it late, as you say. Some trainers never win it, So with point I'm making is, you would have been so chuffed, I'm sure, to have got that achievement early on in your career.
It's so weird. I came back from Durban when he was a 2-year-old, and I said to the team, I said, look, we're in big trouble. We just can't take on the big stables. I mean, they're just buying everything and everything. We don't have the buying power, and we don't have the horses, and I was almost like on a low. And my assistant at the time, Adele Alsop, said, are you crazy? Have you seen what you got here? And we walked around the yard, and we got to little filly, and she said, this is the best you got here. I said, this little thing. She said, this little thing. I loved her, but she was tiny. And we carried on walking through. We got to the colts barn, and she said, and that's your best colt. I said, the one I bred. She said, the one you bred. She said, these are 2 prop horses. So kudos to her, because she picked them up, cantering them through the winter. Between them, I think they won 8 Group 1s, 9 Group 1s. Yeah, sure. It was Lady Windermere, and she was a tick in a brick eye, and then Big City Life. So you never ever know. There's a lovely famous saying in racing: no trainer will commit suicide with an unraced 2-year-old. It's always hope.
There's always hope. Absolutely. Talking of Adele, also trainer of the highest order, assistant trainer of the highest order. She's with Vaughan now, isn't she? Yeah. So and just a great horsewoman. So she also too knows her oats. One thing about your stable is communication, entertainment, because their owners want all that. It's a whole package deal. You want to be able to hear about your horse. You want to be able to be entertained. Those things that you guys with your son and your daughter and your team, and of course Kathy. Entertainment is of utmost importance. Communication is of utmost importance. If you do it properly.
I think that today, back in the day, there was no cell phone, so you had a reason not to answer because you were always training the horses. Today you got the cell phone and you 24/7, literally. And I think if you leave it behind, it's like you've chopped your arm off. Terrible. But it's brilliant, but it's also a sin as well. Geez, you never get off it.
Yeah, never get off it.
But it is. I mean, why not? They're paying a lot of money to have the horses in training. Information is key. communicate, and you've got to build relationships. My boss always used to say, you've got to eat bread with the owners.
Yeah, eat bread with that. That's a great.
But I was just talking, Craig Ramsey was talking about those big syndicates in Australia. So blokes have got like 0.5%. Those are the worst of the trainers because they're always on the phone wanting to know what's going to win.
I think with the syndicate, we've got Woodhill Syndicate. It runs really smoothly. Our media team take it over, and it's really great. It's fantastic that the man in the street can afford to earn horse, and it's going to come in a big way. I mean, Racescape's going to be pushing it this side as well. There's incentives for syndicates. You get huge incentives. If you win a race, they give you the syndicate 20,000 rand. If you win the log of the most wins, you get a further a bonus. It's fantastic, and it's so nice. I think syndication is the way to go. It's a way of putting everybody together. I mean, I remember when I was lucky enough to go to the Melbourne Cup, everybody owns a share in the horse. If there are 10 people in the room, 8 of them own a share in the horse.
Yes.
Whether it be 1% or 0.5% that they got it there.
It's
crazy.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying. It can become, you say, whether it's a 0.5% or a 1% or a 10% or 500% of 100% of 5 horses. That's like just chatting to some of the punters on the way up to record this podcast. Of course, they want to know what's smart, what's good, etc. And it's part of the whole game. It's part of the thing. And as you say, I'm sure the point I'm making is, I'm sure whether your owner has 1% or 10% or he has 10 horses, you freely give the information on the yard. I mean, that's what it's all about. You want people to do well.
You know that when we bought Woodhill, I had to go and get a loan from the bank, and we were Standard Bank for years. We've never missed a payment. They wouldn't give me a loan for a farm. I went everywhere. So I went to a client of mine and said, look, you're a property developer. Can't you organize a bank manager to give me a loan? He said, let me see what I'm going to do. So 2:00, Milton, go to this bank. He says, John will meet you there. The bank manager's name's John, you'll know him. So I said, how will I know him? He said, no, you'll know him when you see him. And I walked in there, and there was this man who's now the manager. He was a punter every Saturday, sitting at the table with his newspaper shorts and slops. And every time I'd see him, I'd say, hi, how are you? I didn't know what his name was. He always said, how are you? What do you like? I used to tell him. And he said, you haven't changed from that day to now. He says, and I really appreciate that. You got the time for everybody on the course. And he said, how much do you want? I said, it can't be that simple. He said, how much do you want? So it's amazing. My dad always said, manners make a man. Don't be scared to talk to the street sweeper or to the president.
Yeah, I know.
Can you say that again, please? Can you say that again? Because that's special. Say that again.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many things that my dad taught us over the years. He never said much, but when he did, it stuck there. Yeah, he always said to me, manners make a man. He said, and don't ever be scared to speak to the street sweeper or to the president. Treat them the same. He says, because empathy is what gets you, going forward.
I'm following. I mean, I know you think I'm a soppy git, but that's all right. I'm following a guy on Instagram called Jay Shetty, Jay space SHETTY, and S to Wonder. To Wonder also follows him, so he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And just to hear the wisdom and the motivation, and people thrive on that. That's why I asked you to repeat it, because somebody out there, please God, will get some info out of that, because that is wonderful information. Talking about your dad, Shane, recently passed away, but the whole family, your dad, your cousin you mentioned, yourself, Nathan, I mean, you cut your arms, just racing blood flows out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm just so grateful that I was brought up running around a racing yard. We always lived in Newmarket. We had Albert's in Newmarket. We lived on a property that I was actually born on, and moved back there 14 years later. And we've always been around the racing yard and learning all the time. He was a great horseman. When he passed away, the messages from right around the world came in, and I can't tell you how many that you don't realize what a legend he actually was. They say one of the greatest horsemen they've ever met, and various, from show jumpers to vets to owners to jockeys, other trainers. It was amazing.
And I think your dad was a dead ringer for Charles Bronson.
100%.
Glenn, or as you're affectionately known by your colleagues, Kotzen, your brother's got a horse in the July. He's done so well with that horse, with all the owners and all that goes with it. When I interviewed him this morning, obviously a little stubborn, but that's Royal Victory. but he galloped well. How's the vibe in the family camp? You know, we talk about the business of the stable, but amongst the two butties, what's it like?
No.
I know that if he beats you, you'll be the first to congratulate him and vice versa.
Absolutely. No, look, I mean, Nathan is a great horseman. He's probably one of the best I've seen. He really is a great horseman. Unfortunately, he can't talk. Yeah. He hasn't got the gift of the gab. He's a little bit like my father.
Sure.
Once you get to know him, he'll rattle it off. But otherwise, he doesn't really canvass. He doesn't go out and canvass himself and pull the owners in. But if you know him, he's a great horseman. I mean, what he's done with this horse is amazing. And I saw him stick up, but he is a quirky horse, and a lot of good horses are like that. You know,
Correct.
Big City Life, if he decided he wasn't going to work, he would stand for 20 minutes. Don't kick him, don't hit him. But if you want to stay in the distance, you do it. And when he decided he wanted to go, he would go. He is a bit quirky, but I mean, that's how he is. But he looked magnificent post-race. When I was watching him walk around there, obviously he had the heart monitor on him to see his fitness levels or whatever. He's really a big beast of a horse. I think he'll carry his weight quite nicely.
It must be something of a record having brothers in the July.
Yeah, funny enough, they did an article I saw yesterday, Sporting Post. The last was the Lead brothers. So
okay.
They had a run in the July together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something.
Talking about stats, just to go off beat for a second. Yesterday, I'm told that's why I didn't mention it live, but I believe yesterday the late Dr. Labuschagne, his colours have been around for years and years and years. And Lord Wiley ran yesterday. I believe that was the last time we'll ever see those colours. So that was a sad day for racing because those colours, have been around. So that was an interesting fact. And then also Brett Van Loon yesterday. I think I needed to ask him. I don't think that he's finished first, second, and fourth in a race, which happened for him yesterday. First, second, and fourth. So this, stats, lovely developments. But talking of also stats, sorry, we just sidelining for a moment. You talk about looking at horses, talking about two other trainers. Tinny Prinsloo said to me the other day, he said, I've got an interesting, something that you can talk about. He's got 8 horses in train. Of those 8 horses that are in training, 4 of them are running on South Africa's biggest day, of which one is in a Group 2. I mean, I'd love to see the win place statistics on that. So there's a lot when you dig deep, from the top to the bottom. There's so much information. There's so much knowledge.
There was always a late Michael Roberts used to train in Joburg. I think he had 14 horses and he was champion trainer in the Transvaal at the time. Crazy. I think every single one was a group winner.
You were telling us off air, the ups, the downs, and you just said, sure, we could again sit here for 10 hours, which we can't, sadly, but yeah, you said you've been through it all, like most trainers, ups and downs.
I think the highest and the lowest I've been in a couple of hours was winning the Group 1 with Princess Victoria and being so elated, and 4 hours later or 5 hours later, Big City Life putting a foot wrong on the track to defend his title. He ran an absolute cracker. He ran 4th, but he got beat to length, flying at them, and he broke down in there to euthanize him on the line. Those highs and lows you can't explain. It's absolutely crazy.
It's shame. It is unbelievable. There was a lovely story the other day. Quinn's Time, I think, is the name of it. You turned them out. Sure. And John Butler, of course, is your assistant here at KZN. You've got the 2 yards, which has worked so good for you. But there was a lovely story about the first-time owner. His name unfortunately escapes me. And I interviewed him, and that was a special moment. How did you find him? How did you find Quinn's Time?
Well, Warren Frost, which is my oldest, longest-suffering owner and one of my best friends, he said, look, I've got a guy that I supply chemicals to, and I want you to meet him. He's going to come racing. And we got on like a house on fire. I said, look, put me in a share in a horse. First horse is an absolute dud. 2 runs. We didn't even bother to give it a 3rd run. I said, look, we're not going to, your quickest loss is your best loss. We got rid of it. We bought him his 2nd horse. It ran 2nd first time out. A massive price came for him to sell him to Mauritius. And we said, the other partner said, we're selling you. He never had a choice. I said, geez, that is terrible. So now, thank goodness we got him at Quinn's Time. But Quinn's Time arrived from the farm, from Brett from Lawn in the middle of winter. He looked as rough as can be. But I mean, that's how they must come in. Must come in rough and tough. And I said, John, well, what do you think? And John's not a man of many words. Even when the string comes down from Cape Town for the season, I say, what do you think of the horses, the 2-year-olds this year? No, they're right. Yeah. You can never get him excited. And so I said, well, what do you think of the horse? He said, geez, he's rough, he's small, he's this and that. So I'll give him time, he'll grow into it. And of course, a couple of months later, I said, look, you're putting this horse together. It's an hotel. You've got to do a bit of work, put the horse together. So John actually did. He put a whole lot of guard. And when he said, look, I'm taking a share 4 months down the road,
Sure, then he must have done it.
we're under no pressure to pay for him. We could pay for him when the time was up. So when he said he's taking a share in the horse, I said, this horse can run. Because John's no fool. And when I saw he named it Quinn's Time after his son, I said, this was really
Yeah,
good.
we can win. Yeah.
He just needed a bit of time. So he had 3 runs up the straight. His third run, we're going to run him around the bend. But when we looked at it, was one of his open handicaps. He's a 3-year-old giving weight to the older horses. That was crazy. Yeah. So we gave him another one up the straight. And then we said, right, he's super fit now. We'll put him over ground. And the rest is history. He won a very good race.
The gentleman that I interviewed showed me his interview said, I'm so sorry, I'm stuttering and stammering, my mouth will dry, I'm shivering and shaking. And I stopped him. I said, those are the signs we want to hear, because that's what it's about. That's why we do it. Sweaty palms, shivering and shaking. I mean, doesn't matter if it's a merit rated 65 handicap up on the high felt or a grade 1. I mean, that's what you do it for. But Glenn,
if we could bottle that
yeah,
and sell it to the public, or to sell it out there, we'd be the biggest industry, because you can't explain the winner of the feeling of having a winner, especially your first or your last, whether it be a maiden or the July. That euphoria that you get is just unbelievable.
Yeah, we talked about that. You did a bloopers, and I was watching on the Hollywoodbets WhatsApp group, and they were just talking about members of the media and racing that have made a pot shop of something. We all have. I mean, we all put our foot in it, and we're human beings. We're not robots. But you mentioned that, and I interviewed about a year ago. I won't mention his name because there's no need for that. A very wealthy man, and you think to him, what can you say? This man's achieved everything. He's done everything. He's got everything. And I said to him, sure, for all your successes, if we could just only sell the passion and the drive and the excitement and the experience and the adrenaline, if we could just bottle it and sell it, I said, you'd be a very rich man. I mean, it was like, it's just ridiculous. I mean, you could buy and sell half of Durban 7 times over. You're right. And that just made me think that if we could sell that, we'd all be wealthy, because it's a feeling second to none. It really is.
Makes grown men cry.
Absolutely. It's made grown men cry. You're quite right. Then, just before we close up and start wishing you well, it would be remiss if we didn't go through a couple of runners. As I said, this is the official Hollywoodbets Durban July podcast. We've got a busy day. Let's rattle through them quickly. In the first race, you're starting off with Wings of Josephine.
Look, Wings of Josephine had an absolute cracker, and I just think that everybody needs a chance. We had 100 jocks lining up for the ride, but young Max Marks,
Marks Jacobson.
Yeah, right.
Blaine Marks Jacobson.
He read it last time out, and to give the kid a ride on July Day is just something special, something that he's not going to ever forget. So I think that she's drawn okay, and I think she's in an absolute crack in that race, especially with claiming the 4 kilos. It'll be wonderful if the kid could pull it off.
You and your team have always made a point every season that you've come to KZN to assist and help an apprentice. I mean, and that's a kudos to you and the team, because without the chance, they can't go anywhere.
That's sort of, every year we say that, and every year we give a bribe to all the apprentices at the yard, and we just mentor them and just talk to them and say, this is what you should be doing, this is what you're doing wrong or right, and they really appreciate it. So it's great stuff. And it's also so lovely to have a runner for our sponsors, Will Sports Betting, on the day.
Blue Holly in the second race is a reserve, but in case she gets in, consistent.
She is. She funny enough, her best form's been over 1,000 meters, and her last start she ran on too late, and Chad said, maybe you should try over 1,200 or put blinkers on her. This race came up, and we accepted her, but as you know, I don't think we'll get it.
I tipped her twice in a row, and she let me down.
Stop tipping the horse. Stop stopping the horse.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, anyone who believes in that. The other day, I had a bet on a horse. I said, that horse, I backed it at Cape Sec. And he says, does the horse know you backed it, for goodness sake? But we all have our superstitions. The third race, Blackberry Malt. Well, what Blackberry Malt, showed his well-being here this morning. What can we expect on the big day?
Yeah, okay, he's had one bad run this season. He finished at start before you dropped better. Even the fourth, but he called up quite tucked at his back. So the vets and the physios got him, and I think we've sorted it out. He's a lovely horse. He's not very big, but he's typical of his size. They travel with a lot of the strength there. And yeah, he's in the constellation. I think he's got a chance. He's a nice cat boy. Some money hits to ride it, top jock. Good draw, I think we out there.
And then in the fourth race, which is the Gold Vase, the lovely strong hand Bombers in the Sky, and of course Holding Thumbs, who bounced right back to best last time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really chuffed with his run last time. I had to give weight away as well. I was hoping to try and qualify him in the race for Gary Player and his partners. It would have been fantastic to have a runner for them in the big one. But at the moment, he's way ahead of everybody else for Equus Champion on the points. It's only a point system. So should he win this, nothing wrong with winning Equus Champion Stay of the Year.
Then, on my honour, we've spoken about, so we won't repeat that. Then let's go to your penultimate runner, which is King Regent in the 10th race in the Premier Gateway International Handicap. Tell us about King Regent.
Yeah, look, he's just been an absolute soldier. He's probably a better sprinter, believe it or not, even though his full brother that we trained went 2.432. But he's carrying a big weight. I put him in the Merchants. He drew right off the boards. I thought that's pointless. He can play up in the pens where he like bunny hops a little bit. So if you miss the break and drawn badly at Greyville at over 1200, you got no chance. So I've opted to run him in the mile. He's got a big weight, 64. It's going to be tough, but he's obviously carrying the weight because he's got the best rating in the race.
And the last runner, you've stuck with JC Burgess, and no surprises because he's a rider that's showing talent, and he rode this horse nicely last time.
In a Seminoles field, couldn't get a run. That's crazy. But he couldn't. He just couldn't get a run. He finished with a ton in hand. But what is exciting about the filly is that she's coming to hand at the right time. The guys put their money down to buy this horse back into the yard. It was moving to Johannesburg, and we Gauteng, and we decided that she was too nice to let her go. Yeah, things were in pear shape with this. We had to start from the scratch again, and she's quite a quirky filly. She's a magnificent looking filly, but being a filly, she's quite bitchy, and she doesn't like certain riders, certain jockeys, and Young Boerts gets on with her so well. So yeah, I mean, Chad Little saying, I'm the stable jockey, why aren't I riding it? I said, because this kid gets on with her. He said, so do I. I said, no, this kid really gets on with her. So yeah, and that's lovely again to give. JC was our kid that we chose last season to start him up. We gave him his first winner. In fact, I think he had his first 3 winners for us, all on the same horse, without any help from him, because he was out of sync and everything like that. But it just gave him the confidence, and I mean, today I think he's one of the fine young riders.
Yeah,
but
going as far as riders, Chad Little, you've really put him on the map.
Look, Chad was champion apprentice, and I used to watch him ride as a young kid, and I thought, this is going to be the next top boy. David Payne, really believed in him. And yeah, we know that he went off the rails and everything in pear shape, and it's taken a bit of time, a little bit longer than I liked to have got his confidence back. And I've got to thank my owners, because nobody really said, please, enough is enough. She's either going too soon or it's not getting there. But it's just amazing. It's just a confidence thing.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the hardest working jockeys I've seen. He's the first to track, the last to leave, even now in here. And he by his own right, he said, I've got to have winners to get the confidence. So he's going to PE. He's built up a good rapport there. But if you know Chad Little, he's got a great personality. People love him. He's a very, very kind-hearted guy, and he'll help anybody. And yeah, I think that we're onto a good thing. I think that in time to come, he's going to be one of the forces we reckon with.
Yeah, well, he would have got a lot of confidence out of Wing Walker yesterday.
Yeah, well, then you go. They always say to you, who's your best horse in your yard?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's got to be my wife.
Yeah.
She's definitely the best horse in the yard. And then I'd say Chaz is the second best, in the simple reason that he's always there. You can count on him. He never misses a day's work. He works hard. And and of course the team. We've just got a fantastic team behind us.
Before we close, it'd be remiss if we didn't give a selection, to what the in the box seat team like. And I'll start with Glenn. Obviously, your horse, but I'm asking you to give us 2. Who's your first choice, your horse, and who's the danger?
You got us 8 and 18. You know what worries me is that Mike de Kock had the best horse we've ever seen in this country, Horse Chestnut. He refused to run the horse in the July, and he said, if you give it top weight of 57, we're not running it. And they stuck to their guns, took it to America. It must have been a very hard decision, because every time I asked Justin, I said, what are you guys doing? Obviously, we want to know. And he said, look, we're on the fence because half the team want to run, half don't want to run. And they obviously had to come to a decision. And look, it's probably the right decision. He's a great horse. I mean, I spoke to Greg Bortz yesterday, and we were chatting or whatever, and I said, gee, what do you think 8 on 18 carrying top weight? And said, this is the best horse he's seen race in South Africa, and that's how highly they think of him. So he's obviously a very smart horse. I think he's going to campaign in Europe next year. But it's still a tough task. 57, it hasn't been done before. You've got to get lucky. It's a big field. There's a lot of luck involved. So if it was me, I would have gone the 1800 Group 1, easier. A lot of horses won't run in it. But decisions are made, and we wish him all the best. Like, I think you've got to respect him. And if I had to think of one other horse, I liked Confederate. Yeah, he'll stay all day. He's a proper horse.
He's never finished further back than second.
Yeah.
And Mr. Andrew Harrison, your selection. I mean, and I said to somebody downstairs, because it's a lot of people on the camp of the favourite, but a short price winner is better than a long price loser. Talk.
Yeah, 8 on 18. I think whatever beats 8 on 18 is going to win. I mean, we spoke to Andrew Fortune last podcast, and he said he had galloped in 7 furlongs in the morning. He said this horse is still improving. So if he's good enough, I mean, it'll be a superstar. But there are a lot of horses there right on his tail. Yeah, I don't think you can have it all that easy. Yeah. But he's got a good jaw. That jaw 11 is good because you got that gap in between the stalls. So he's not going to get sandwiched.
Yeah. So 8 on 18. Well, not to sound...
no, man, I'm a real Prince man. The real Prince.
So I thought you'd put the hammer down. Okay,
no,
so real Prince.
The real
so
Prince.
Respect for 8 on 18, but you're in the camp of the real Prince. Yeah, well, okay. That's better. Okay, that's Andrew Harrison. I am telling nobody any secrets. After what I've seen, what I've heard, I am in the camp of 8 on 18. I view it what Big Ward says. Certainly since I've been around, I think one of the best I've seen anyway. So I'm in his camp, but... not just saying it because he's sitting here. You've got to respect Glen's horse. Absolutely, you have to. He's explained why you have to. Okavango, a lot of people think I'm delusional about Okavango being able to place. I like Okavango for a place. And, of course, Saluk Rathel. Saluk would adapt. Saluk be magnificent today, the gallops. So those are our selections. Glen, thank you for your time. And Kathy, I know, is with us too. And as you say, she certainly is the best horse in your yard. And she's just such a lady full of grace and so full of charm. Behind every good man is
a woman.
Absolutely, an even better woman. So all the best to her and your entire family. Fire it up on the big day, and hopefully we're talking to you in the winner's box many times, and especially for the big one.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. That's it. Glen Kotzen from Woodhill Racing, Andrew Harrison, myself, Warren Letferner, and the entire production team behind the scenes. Punt well, be safe. And if you haven't got July fever yet, go to the doctor and ask him to check you out because it's electrifying.